They've been covering it like crazy. Our media? Nary a peep. Let's go to the BBC. Back on the 7th, just 2 days after this ban was made public, the next three clips, the next three exchanges that you'll hear, Dr. Savage interviewed by the BBC on this ban. Why are they so interested in this, and our press and our politicians are not? They don't even have access to the man's show in their country, and they seem to care more deeply than the folks right here at home in Dr. Savage's backyard. The BBC and Dr. Savage, May 7th of this year.
Was shocked, angered. How in the world could I be linked with known murderers, people who have been put in prison for years for killing people, people who espouse the overthrow of your government, openly, when I am simply speaking, talking for 15 years on the radio, writing best-selling books? It was shocking to believe this is coming out of England, a country I've always loved and admired, specifically for its freedoms.
Of course, the Home Secretary Jackie Smith has said that the reason you were banned is because the things that you say foment hatred, engaging people in spreading hatred as well. What do you say to the reasons behind the ban?
Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. There are millions of people who agree with me, not only in America but around the world. Now, you can take sound bites from an individual and turn them into anything you want. But if you actually listen to what I said about these things, it might be a different individual that you're hearing. I don't know which show Jackie heard or when she heard it, but I'm not broadcast in England. So obviously she was given some selected sound bites by individuals who detest my points of view and are trying to skewer me. That's not freedom of speech, nor is that fair. The issue is that in America, the First Amendment was written to protect offensive speech. We don't need a First Amendment to protect polite speech, do we? I mean, everyone engages in polite speech. What do we need protections for? It's speech which provokes thought that is considered offensive and hateful by those who disagree with you, isn't it? And so, therefore, it's only speech we're talking about, not the acts of murderers. And to lump me in with murderers is defaming me. It's libeling me.
Michael Savage with the BBC on the 7th of May this year, just 2 days after this ban was made public, and just 13 days after the ban was made public, the British government, Parliament, got involved. So British politicians and British media are locked and loaded on this issue, and as Michael himself points out in the BBC interview, the British public can't even hear his radio show. Yet crickets. You could hear a pin drop. The deafening silence of his colleagues in talk radio, the mainstream media, and the politicians in Washington, D.C. My name's Chris. Dr. Savage out today on the Savage Nation.
Savage. I want to let you know that I love Michael Savage.
The Savage Nation on Talk 910 KNEW.
Interestingly, as Michael Savage continues to battle back the British ban on his very existence, our government, not taking up concern for him, a legal citizen whose freedom of speech is being infringed upon, our government, our president, has stepped up pressure on Honduras's de facto government today. As deposed President Manuel Zelaya and his supporters called on Washington to pave the way for his return. Do you believe this? My name is Chris. I'm in for Michael today. Dr. Savage taking a day off, and I appreciate the invitation, Dr. Savage, to be here in your stead while he determines what is best for him to pursue legally now. It appears that the fight is not over, not even close to over. The ban, the British ban, 16 individuals listed back in May by then Home Secretary Jackie Smith, many terrorists, thugs, murderers, and thieves. And tucked in there, Dr. Savage, talk show host, for doing nothing more than speaking his mind. Considered an enemy of the state. He's engaged in a legal fight of his life. It is ugly, it is taxing, and he seemingly has no support domestically except from you, those of you that are here and listening and loyal. And you are many, by the way, and he appreciates every bit of the support, and not just in word, but financial support. I should mention again, the Legal Defense Fund is at michaelsavage.com if you feel so inclined to help. He has not taken a penny of this for himself. He will not. It is all to defend him legally as he decides what to do now. As the story was sort of dripped out there that perhaps they were going to rescind this ban this weekend, and all was forgotten. Sorry for the ban, Dr. Savage. It's over. No, it is not over. And the news story today at michaelsavage.com, you can read it, that the British Embassy confirming today in Washington, D.C., Dr. Savage is still very much on the list, and there has been no action or movement to take him from that list. But I find it ironic that on the same day, there's confirmation out of Washington, D.C., that Michael Savage, a talk radio host, is banned from This is fat. Folks, Reuters reporting today that the United States is now pressuring this Honduran government that legally and rightly, per their Constitution, their Supreme Court, their Congress, and their people, overthrew a dictator who wanted to overstay his term limit. It was a government-sanctioned takeover, coup, if you want to call it that, of a guy named Manuel Zelaya. He was tossed out of office. A new president sits at the helm. Zelaya goes to the United Nations and demands to be reinstated at once. What does our president do, Barack Obama? He insists Zelaya be reinstated. You see, because this is the kind of government Barack Obama really likes. And people like Dr. Savage stand tall and speak loudly against governments like Zelaya's. With negotiations deadlocked and Zelaya vowing to return to Honduras within days, some fear Central America's worst crisis since the end of the Cold War could flare into violence. Talks mediated by the Costa Rican president collapsed over the weekend. The government now, the U.S. government, has thrown its weight behind Zelaya to be reinstated. Is this fascinating? Sad and shocking all at the same time? Hillary Clinton and the State Department, led by President Barack Obama, are siding with a dictator, forcing those free people in a democratic government in Honduras, forcing those people to accept the dictatorial rule of a man that would shred, usurp, and overturn their constitution. Our government stands with Zelaya, a third-world dictator thug, but not a peep in defense of Dr. Savage. What a sad state of affairs. 800-449-8255 is the telephone number. Brian's in San Francisco. My name's Chris Bryan, in for Dr. Savage today on the Savage Nation. Hello.
Yeah, first of all, I was raised a proud American, and grandparents were Christian people. My thing for Mr. Savage is, maybe if he put on a turban and carried a Koran under his arm, they'd allow him anywhere.
It does seem that I know where you're going. There is a certain sympathy or empathy, perhaps. Sonia Sotomayor knows a thing or two about this. Empathy. There's an empathy with a certain mindset, movement, faith, if you will, in Great Britain. Perhaps that is who they're trying to appease, after all. Maybe. In fact, there was a story today. I forgot where I saw it. UK residents now, there's a dramatic uptick in Sharia law being used and pursued for legal matters in the UK. That you can choose to hear your court cases through a system of Sharia law or the British laws on the books, and there's an uptick now of Sharia law being implemented. So what does that mean? I don't know. You can decide what it means for you. But it is interesting, Brian, and I thank you for the phone call. Let's go to Las Vegas, where Mark is waiting patiently on the Savage Nation. Hello, Mark.
Yeah, Chris, how you doing?
Very well. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, I'd like to add my name to that list with Michael Savage, and I think, because I'm an avid listener, and I think the rest of the listeners would do the same thing. I think we ought to make a big, long list and all send it there and say, ban us all.
No, they need your tourist dollars, just like they do in Vegas, Mark, but I appreciate it. I know Dr. Savage appreciates the sentiment. Let's go to Dave in Virginia on the Savage Nation. Hi, Dave. I'm Chris in for Dr. Savage today.
Chris, thanks for taking my call. I agree with 99% of what Dr. Savage says and his principles and his morals and everything, but I think that our insistence that we involve our government in what's going on over there, I think that's going against one of the principles that we stand for in terms of if we don't like it whenever governments attempt to meddle or interfere or demand things from us internally,